The Hulk is arguably one of the scariest Avengers out there. An OG member of the team, he's always been a character who can hold his own, despite his two halves often resenting one another. But that dynamic has made for some great fodder when Marvel has dabbled with the Emerald Giant in alternate storylines that occur outside of the main 616 continuity. Today we are taking a closer look at those narratives with our list of the top 10 scary alternate Hulk stories. We are looking at stories that are not only insidious in nature, but ones where the Hulk is visually petrifying. So with that in mind, let's get to it. Starting us off in at number 10, Venom Hulk. Generally, any character who is venomized tends to be absolutely blood-curdling. In What If Volume 2 Issue 4, in a story titled What If the Alien Costume Had Possessed Spider-Man, we see an alternate timeline in which the Venom symbiote ends up bonding with Spider-Man permanently, but then decides to ditch the character when he comes across the Hulk, sensing that Banner's angrier half was a more powerful being. Venom is able to easily take grasp of the Hulk's mind and begins to attack members of the Avengers, taking advantage of the Hulk's gamma-powered body to go on a rampage, at least until he comes across Thor, and then ditches the Hulk for the Asgardian god instead. Lack of commitment. In at number 9, Ultimate Hulk. The Ultimate Hulk, who hails from Earth 1610, the Ultimate Marvel Universe, isn't the strongest of Hulks on our list, but is still pretty darn terrifying thanks to his personality, and really it's the personality that counts. A member of the 1610 version of the Avengers called the Ultimates, this iteration of Bruce Banner is a creature of pure rage, the personification of id, in which the emotions of Bruce Banner have been amplified to a dreadful extent. Oh, and he's also a cannibal, so that's fun. He only differs in personality compared to the 616 version of the Hulk, although generally doesn't show much in terms of intelligence, opting out to be more violent and reckless than his counterpart. He ripped Ultimate Wolverine in half, he has threatened Hank Pym with the threat of ripping out his skull and then using it as a toilet, and he is pretty hedonistic, once seen surrounded by a whole bunch of naked women in Tibet. He's also a dick to Bruce Banner. He ate his farm co-workers while taunting Banner's decision to be a vegan, and then even took shots at his sexuality, so all in all, Ultimate Hulk, kind of a dick. Moving on to number 8, The End. Got some bleak territory in at this number. So there's a bit of a theme when it comes to solo alternate versions of the Hulk, ones that are part of an entire alternate timeline crafted to incorporate the stories of multiple characters, like the Ultimates universe for example, or Earth X. These solo alternate Hulks tend to exist in dystopian futures, and are generally complete holes. The End is quite the example of those two qualities. A one-shot written by Peter David, Incredible Hulk The End depicts Bruce Banner as an elderly man roaming the Earth as its last inhabitant after nuclear war knocked out all other life forms. He survived because of the Hulk, transforming into the Hulk at night to survive attacks from mutated cockroaches. Hulk would continue to be eaten and destroyed only to regenerate thanks to his healing factor. His only company is something called the Recorder, an alien device sent to do recon of the planet to see what remains. Eventually, Banner gives up on life, dying, leaving the Hulk entirely alone. It really is a bittersweet ending. And at number 7, Maestro. Maestro is a version of the Hulk from a post-apocalyptic alternate future, and he's what would happen if the Hulk became a tyrannical, sadistic dictator. He is said to be a version of the Hulk if Hulk and Banner ever embrace their darker roots. This Hulk appears in the story Future Imperfect, in which Hulk travels to the future to discover this dictator Hulk, who is mentally unstable, reigning over the Earth. His loss of sanity comes from years of radiation exposure, another common theme in some of these darker stories. He's also appeared in other storylines in which he was an enemy of the regular Hulks, with the two duking it out in the Incredible Hulk Volume 2 Issue 401 from 1993. The Hulk had to defeat him by tricking him onto Dr. Doom's time machine, sending him back in time when the gamma bomb exploded, which killed him but then also birthed the regular Hulk. Up next, number 6, Infernal Hulk. The Infernal Hulk first appeared in the Incredible Hulk's annual Issue 1 in a story that took place on an alternate Earth in which Bruce Banner is the Sorcerer Supreme instead of Doctor Strange. He ends up using his magic to rid himself of the Hulk, separating the two. He then banishes the Hulk to Hell. Seems like a good idea at first, right? Well, it does not turn out so great. The Hulk goes on a rampage in Hell, is corrupted by demons, and then finds himself transforming into this big orange abomination, with horns and little demon teeth and all. He manages to find his way out of Hell and back to Earth to take his revenge on Banner, who then realizes the only way to keep the Infernal Hulk at bay is if he remerges with him, a sacrifice he ends up making by the end of his tale. And at 5, Cull. Cull? It's Hulk spelled backwards. Self-described as the Hulk's Hulk, Cull, the anti-Hulk, is the version of the Hulk who claims he was not born at Bruce Banner's weak rage. He came to be during the Axis event in which an inversion spell caused multiple heroes and villains in the Marvel Universe to switch sides, meaning the heroes became bad guys and the bad guys became good guys. The spell causes the Hulk's Hulk to burst out of the Emerald Giant, birthed from sadness rather than rage. He is a personality aspect of the Hulk's, not of Bruce Banner, and the sadder the Hulk gets, the stronger Cull is. He's physically more imposing than the Hulk and had had enough strength to take on pretty much all of the Avengers at once. Up next, number 4, Ruins Hulk. The Ruins Hulk is the most depressing of this lot. Hailing from Earth 9591, this version of the Hulk met a terrible end. Now for context, Ruins takes place in an alternate timeline in which individuals with superpowers experience grim consequences thanks to their abilities. Bruce Banner in particular suffered from the radiation of a gamma bomb he was exposed to when saving Rick Jones. He began to mutate into a horrific state, one that vaguely looks like the Hulk, instead becoming a mass of pulsating green tumors. The last thing that was heard of him was that he was being held captive by the CIA, although it is likely that his deformed state would eventually have killed him. And at number 3, Zombie Hulk. Zombie Hulk is particularly scary. In the zombie Marvel universe, after the Hulk becomes zombified, he ends up getting his undead mitts on Galactus and the Silver Surfer, along with a handful of other zombified Marvel heroes, including Wolverine, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Power Man, and Giant Man, and briefly Captain America, but he ends up dead. Because they consume Galactus, they are endowed with the power cosmic. Calling themselves the Zombie Galacti, they would go around the universe eating entire civilizations, easily destroying any defenses or threats with their newfound cosmic abilities. 40 years later, at the edge of the known universe, the Zombie Galacti are joined by Thanos, Gladiator, and Dark Phoenix. Having devoured almost the entirety of the universe, Thanos begins to blame Hulk for putting them in this situation since his hunger is the most insatiable, and he consumes more than the others. How does the Hulk respond? By decapitating the Mad Titan. Pretty brutal. And at 2, the Immortal Hulk. This one is technically set in the 616 continuity, but it is too good of an alternate version of the Hulk for us to not include on this list. After Banner was killed in Civil War II, the Hulk would survive, emerging as the Devil Hulk, a Hulk who has always been trapped inside of Bruce's mind, kept at bay by the other versions of the Hulk kicking around inside his cranium. Devil Hulk has broken free though, and his goal is to kill all of humanity so that Earth can start out fresh. A comic that has found itself in horror genre territory, the Immortal Hulk series has produced a slew of chilling events. There's a new version of the Abomination that's scary as hell, and is a mix of gamma-irradiated tissue from Emil Blonsky, which has been spliced with the exhumed corpse of Rick Jones. Duh. We witnessed multiple deaths, including a 12-year-old being shot in a gas station by Bruce Banner, bushwhackers shooting Betty Ross in the head, the Hulk ripping out the Absorbing Man's spine to beat him up with it, and an entire town being wiped out thanks to a UV energy beam shot down at him by the Avengers. The Hulk is also capable of constantly reforming his body, which also included an instance in which he reformed over scientist Dr. Clive, killing him in one of the most grotesque methods that we've ever seen in a Hulk comic. All in all, this comic is filled with nightmare fuel, and it is one of the Hulk's most addictive reads of recent times. Last but not least, in at number 1, Old Man Logan Hulk. This version of the Hulk that appears in Old Man Logan is a homicidal redneck of sorts, a Hulk who believes in incest and has lost all sense of morality. This is likely chopped up to years of gamma radiation poisoning, which has caused him to go mad. Essentially, after the supervillains of Earth take over the planet, killing off most of the heroes, we find ourselves in a dystopian world in which Wolverine, who accidentally was responsible for killing his fellow X-Men, ended up becoming a recluse and raising a family, swearing an oath to never release his claws ever again since the death of his friends. The land he lives on is owned by the Hulk, who ends up sending his sons to threaten Wolverine, his son's birth of incest from She-Hulk. Wolverine goes on a mission to escort a blind Hawkeye across the country in order to pay his debts, but Banner still orders the execution of Logan's family. A grief-stricken Wolverine sets out to kill Banner and faces off against him. Banner eventually turns into the Hulk, a monstrous version of his former self who is pretty much invincible. He eats Wolverine, but that isn't where Logan's story ends. The mutant hero claws his way out of the Hulk's belly, killing him in the process. It's pretty gross. Alright, there we have it friends. What other alternate versions of the Hulk scare the crap out of you? Give us a shout in those comments below and let us know. If you dug this video, spread that love, hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe to Top 10 Nerd for more lists just like this one. We also have a nifty little playlist kicking around on your screen right now, so why not give that a click and check out the rest of our channel. We'd love it if you hung out with us some more. In the meantime though, thanks for watching friends. I'll catch you all in the next video.